We were talking about a couple of the myths that sometimes we are so afraid that we're going to do something wrong, and we know that we have someone's well-being in our hands, and we want to be oh so careful, and we really don't want to direct them in the wrong, we want to help, and that's why we're all coaches, of course. But Ken has a few thoughts on some of the myths that perhaps can be busted or at least expanded to include. You want to tell them about the first one?
Okay. What if the answer isn't in the client?
Oh my goodness!
What if we are holding What if we are holding our clients, and we're doing everything we were taught in coaching school, and they just don't ever get it? But if there's a question, there is an answer somewhere, isn't there?
Should be.
And if it's not in the client, it's somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So here's my question: is it necessary, or even prudent, for a coach to hold their client to finding the answer within themselves when it's not there? When maybe it's in a book, or maybe the coach has the answer, or maybe somebody else does. Is our job to help our clients find the answer within themselves, or is our job to help our clients find the answer wherever it is?
Fascinating question. What do you think?
I think it's to find it wherever it is. And why would I lose my train of thought on television? Isn't that terrible?
Oh, that is awful. Would you like me to fill in?
Would you for about 2 seconds?
Well, actually, what makes this so revolutionary is of course, it's been pounded in our heads. Never, ever, ever give advice. The answer with the client. If the client doesn't come up with the answer, it's not a valid answer.
What could possibly be crueler than watching somebody struggle to find an answer that's very, very important to them, maybe crucial to them, and you know the answer, and not tell them what it is?
That sounds so logical, and yet so against the tradition of what we've been taught. How would you go about how would you go about getting this answer to the person?
I might say something like, I'm not sure, but I think I may have an answer for you. Is it okay if I tell you about it?
Wow, I like that. I like that. That would work for me.
You're not inconsistent with the 11 core competencies.
Right.
And tell them what it is. They of course, can say, no, that's not the answer. Fine. Well, then you took a stab at it.
And then you could even follow up and go, well, what do you think the answer would be? And then start coaching on that. I love that. That's a fantastic idea.
So rather than the answer is within the client, how about the answer is somewhere?
Oh, change all those coaching books.
We don't know where.
I do like that, though, because you're absolutely right. You might find a need to guide the client to a certain book or something. It doesn't always you don't have to have the answer.
No.
That's what makes coaching so marvelous.
Although you very well might.
Huh?
You might have the answer.
Yeah, you might. And I do like your asking permission. I think I might, admitting that you might have an answer, and then asking if indeed you can I share it with you? And with the understanding that it doesn't have to be your answer, but it might be mine.
Right.
So okay, that's pretty off the wall. We also talked a little bit about emotions. So tell us your little myth buster on that one.
How many times and how many coaches have heard from their coaching school or from other people that if, God forbid, their client is to express an emotion of any kind, what if they cry? What if they say they're sad? What if they say, I'm really bummed out? If, God forbid, that happens, they must immediately refer them to a therapist because a coach is certainly not qualified to deal with that. I find that concept totally bizarre. I find it silly. I find it absurd. If you can talk about your feelings to your hairdresser, to your bartender, to a cab driver, you can certainly talk about it with your coach. And it's appropriate, and it's good. We are coaching an entire person. People have emotions. And there is nothing as twisted or as uncoach-like as believing that we can't coach people around their feelings and with their feelings.
See, we're busting this, and it feels a little scary, but this is making sense to me.
Now, we're not diagnosing anything.
Okay, that's
We're not trying to heal or cure anything.
Okay. Well, how would you say, okay, now, there's a thin line, and we all know there's a thin line, and that's one world really, but how would you say, okay, the difference between therapy and coaching would be? What should we keep in mind when we're listening to emotions, which are, I agree, valid feelings?
If somebody talks seriously about suicide,
okay,
you should absolutely refer them to a therapist. One of the ways you can tell is if they have a plan to do it.
Okay.
Okay? But if a client was to say to me, I feel like killing myself, and I would say to them immediately, are you just saying that, or is it something that's really a possibility? And if they say, no, it's a possibility, at that point I think I want them to see a therapist.
Okay.
If they say, no, it's just a figure of speech.
Mm-hmm. But then I think if you hear that figure of speech like a few more times, then you might want to start getting a little nervous.
Yeah, you may want to say, why do you keep going with that?
They may not realize.
Sure.
That,
Absolutely.
This is a valid plan that they're working on
Absolutely.
in their head. But okay.
Absolutely. If a client is totally stuck in emotion and can't ever get beyond a specific group of emotions, therapy may be very appropriate for them. But if they just want to talk about it or express some feelings, there is no reason why a coach shouldn't or wouldn't want to go there.
This is all making sense to me, and I think we're starting to see why probably Ken is so successful, because he is willing to take those little steps outside the box, and it seems to be working, and that's fantastic. I know you have a very interesting theory on not only getting, because you're obviously getting success and notoriety, and but giving back. I love your charity plan, and that's in one of the books also.
Yeah, I stole it.
You stole it?
Yes.
Oh, no. Well, who else would admit that?
I did. No, I stole the idea completely. I do believe in it, though.
Okay.
What's interesting is, I speak all around the country, actually all around a couple of countries, and the only time I've ever talked about this concept, where they all really understood what it was in Atlanta about 2 months ago. I got all these emails from people thanking me for the biblical references. Let me tell you where it comes from.
Did you steal this from God?
I did. I stole it from God.
My goodness.
And he's pissed. No, he's not. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if he is.
Sure
I don't
really, that you're spreading,
I don't really talk to him.
the word, yes.
Here's what. Here's where it comes from. In virtually every, I don't know what the word is, holy book, whether it's the Torah, whether it's the Holy Bible, whether it's the Quran, I don't know how to say this right, so any people who would, just please don't get offended, the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, I can
never say it right.
I can't help you, I'm sorry.
Almost any of them all say the same thing, and it's just about the same concept, which is why I call it one of the few universal truths. God says it is a sin to test God. Don't do it. It gets him irate. He gets mad. You don't want to mess with him.
Okay.
However, in one area, God basically dares you to test him. And it almost, it's almost, I dare you, word for word. Okay? And that's in the area of charity. 10% of all the money you give to the poor, you will get back tenfold. And basically what God says is, I dare you to test me on it. Well, I did test it. Back about 20 years ago. Remember the Live Aid concert?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I picked up the phone. I dialed whatever their 800 number was. I gave him $50. The next morning, my grandmother, when she was still alive, calls me and says, she had 10 grandchildren. And she said, I've been thinking about it, and I want to give each of my grandchildren $500, so I'm going to send you a check. You should have it tomorrow. I'm walking off the porch thinking, wow,
no.
I gave $50, I got $500, that is tenfold.
That definitely is.
And every time, and by the way, I gave the money to Live Aid just to test that. Every time I've ever tested it, it's worked out the same way. So what I do is I put away 10% of the money I make.
Okay.
And I give that to charity through, I give it directly to people, but through an intermediary. I've got a guy who I happen to trust very well. His name's Ralph Cook. He's principal of the elementary school that my youngest daughter had gone to.
Do you remember the 3 stages of charity?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us that before you tell us how you do your charity.
Okay. There's the first stage, which is where you give, this is called the lowest form, which is a fine form. I mean, it doesn't mean it's bad.
Right.
That's where you see somebody that has a need, and you give them money. They know where it came from. You know who it went to. You've done a wonderful thing. The second highest stage of charity is where if I know you need help, and I arrange for you to get the money, but you don't know where it came from.
So you know who you're giving it to.
Right.
I don't know
right.
who's giving it to me.
The highest form of charity is where you give money to somebody who needs it, but you don't know who they are, and they don't know where it came from.
Okay.
So that's why I sort of hooked in with Ralph Cook.
Okay.
Because I live in a town called Wheeling, Illinois, which is about half upper middle class white people, and about half mostly Mexican, Spanish-speaking, a significant number of people who aren't necessarily in the country legally, but a lot of them are very poor. And Ralph generally knows what families are having trouble. So every month or two, I go over to the school, and my daughter's in high school now. She hasn't been in that school for years. But, just Ralph and I keep in touch. I'll go over to the high school, and I'll bring Ralph a box of money. Well, the first time I did it, he thought I was crazy. I said, what should I do with it? I said, just give it to somebody who needs help. So what should I tell them? I said, tell them if they ever get money, they should do the same thing. And Ralph and I have been doing this now. Oh, my daughter is she just finished her sophomore year in high school, and we've done it since she was in first grade, so I'm not sure how many years it is, but we've done it for a long time, Ralph and I. And hopefully we're helping a lot of people. But I deeply believe that one of the reasons why I make as much money as I do is because of that.
Okay, now how would you respond? How would you respond to people who go, well, charity's supposed to be altruistic and for the person, and this seems a bit self-serving. How do you respond to that? Do you feel a need to respond to that?
No, I would say, so what? The fact is I'm helping a lot of people.
Okay.
Who cares why?
Okay.
Do I believe in helping people? Yeah, I would help people if I wasn't getting something back.
Okay.
But I think it's very cool that I can almost guarantee my income by helping people.
And I think it's amazing, and
it works.
I was just going to say, what if we all went out and tested that tomorrow?
I dare you to.
So many, yeah, there would be so many people who would benefit from that. And Ken is right. So what if you don't get it back? The idea is you're really giving, and if you get, and you do get you've got to get a good feeling from doing it to help someone anyway. So I mean, that's the feeling. So
I dare every coach out there.
Ooh,
every single coach out there.
A challenge from Mr. Zaretzky.
I dare you to take 10% of your income
and
give it to somebody who needs it for 1 month and see what happens.
Oh, that's a challenge. And
send me an email and let me know how it goes.
Yeah, you can find his email on his website. Give it to him one more time.
www.howitsdone101.com.
Okay. You can find his email on there, and fascinating experiment, and think of the benefits that everyone could get out of that. So that if you do it, let him know, and I'm sure you'll keep us in touch also.
Oh, I would love to hear about it.
Also, let me encourage you, and then I'm going to let Ken close up with a few thoughts on his weekend, because he's fresh off of a fantastic workshop that he did for the ICF on Saturday. But I just want to encourage you all to go to our website, which is at the bottom of the screen, www.icfnyc.org, and you can find out all kinds of events like Ken's that just passed, but we keep making him come back from Chicago, and he seems to like it, so that's good.
I like New York.
That's what he keeps saying.
I like New York. I like New Yorkers.
Yeah,
I really do.
He's a very unique man in many, many ways. But Ken just finished, like I was saying, a workshop called You-Based, and he goes, I'm not really sure what that means. It's like,
I'm still not sure what it means.
But people loved it.
Yeah.
So what would you say? Let's see, we have about a minute left. What would you say was the highlight of your weekend? Let me just, while he's thinking, let me just say that he has, I think, established a personal relationship with everyone that attended the class. He's already talked to them all on the phone.
I would say that was the high point.
That was the high point?
Yeah, the connection with the people. It was a small workshop, and that was just very cool and intimate. I think I did an exercise that I call the connection exercise. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what it's for. I don't even know what it does. But I tried it in Atlanta a couple of months ago.
Yes.
I tried it in Atlanta a couple of months ago. It was the most powerful thing I ever saw, and I think that was probably the high point again.
Okay, and I'm just going to, he told me about it, and it's like, if you want to try that too, I mean, we want to give you some things to take away. It is just actually picking someone and staring into their eyes for 10 to 20 minutes.
Right.
Was that what it was?
Don't say a word.
Not a word,
Just
and
one.
if the person gets misdirected, you point them back
Come
and
on
go,
back here.
okay. And he's telling me that there's such a bond created that